Friends, welcome to my workplace at Ranaghat, West Bengal, India. In this video, we will see management of this hard cataract with intraoperative miosis. Let us observe the full surgery, almost unedited. The main incision has been made. This is a side port on the right side of the main incision. This is another side port on the left side of the main incision, and now the anterior capsule has to be stained with trypan blue dye. I use an air bubble, and beneath this air bubble I apply the dye over the anterior capsule. You can see the pupil is dilated to about 4.5 millimeter at this time. This is a bit of adrenaline. I'm waiting for some time to see if the pupil dilates a little more with adrenaline, but it didn't dilate much. Now, as I inject fluid and increase the intraocular pressure, the pupil dilates to some extent. Now, this is inject visco. Replace the BSS with this visco, and as I inject little more visco and increase the intraocular pressure, the pupil dilates to about 5.5 millimeter. And I'm using this needle to do an adequate size rhexis, because if I use this needle I will not touch the iris. But if I use the utreta forceps, as I go in, the utreta may touch the iris. So the capsulorhexis is done, and this size of the rhexis is adequate for this hard cataract. Size of this rhexis is about 5.5 millimeter. And now I want to see if I can manage the case without using a pupil expansion device. So I go in with the phaco handpiece, phaco needle bevel down, and as I aspirate some cortical lens matter, the anterior cortical lens matter, I find that the pupil has become very small. The cataract is quite hard, and the size of this pupil is about 3.5 millimeter at this time. I don't want to take any more risk. I want to use a pupil expansion device, and the pupil expansion device that I have with me is B-hex pupil expander. I have injected visco a bit under the iris to make some room for the flanges that will be tucked under the iris. This is the B-hex device. I hold the middle tab with the B-hex forceps, and now I go in. The device has to be taken completely into the anterior chamber. Just watch this carefully. The device goes in completely. A portion of it must not get stuck in the main incision, and the leading flange is tucked at on-go. Now I go through the right side port and tuck the flange at on o'clock, and then I use my left hand and tuck the flange at 10:30 o'clock. With this device, even if you engage the rhexis margin, the rhexis margin will not get torn. This is a very flexible device, more flexible than the capsular axis. And now I go in again with the phaco needle, bevel down, aspirate some superficial cortical lens matter, and now my plan is submarine chop. Here I go in, but as I go in I find that lot of air bubbles come from somewhere. So I aspirate the air bubbles, and again as I try to apply ultrasonic energy, the air bubble somehow comes, but now it has stopped coming, and engage the phaco handpiece and make a nice crack. And now I go in again, rotate the nucleus 180 degree and divide the two heminuclei completely. Now each heminucleus is subdivided into two large fragments. This is the other heminucleus. This is also subdivided into two large fragments. Now each fragment is tilted and emulsification is started from its apex, and then the fragment was too large, so it was subdivided into two smaller pieces. So whenever you find that a piece is quite large, you can subdivide the piece into two smaller pieces. So one heminucleus has been managed. Now the other heminucleus is managed in this way. It has two large pieces. This is one piece. It is emulsified, and this is the last fragment. At this time I am extra cautious. I don't want a posticapsular rent in this case. So my plan is, after emulsifying half of this last piece, I will come to phaco on mode, where the vacuum is only 80 mm of mercury, and this is being done in phaco on mode, emulsification of the last nuclear bit, and I come out. You can see that the rexus, we can see the rexus margin at 1 o'clock, but you cannot see at 7 o'clock. This is because the pupil has become eccentric with BX in situ. The intraocular lens has been placed. In this case there was no cortex to clean up, so the lens is placed. Inject some more visco, and now watch removal of the BX pupil expander, and it is done. So just these few maneuvers and you remove the BX pupil expander with the same BX 23G forceps. Now we can see some pigment dispersion. and we must remove these pigments. The Simcoe cannula 23G is being used to remove the pigments as well as the visco from the anterior chamber as well as from the capsular bag. A lot of visco has come out, but not all. And now I am going to use this bimanual irrigation aspiration for a removal of rest of the visco molecules. And watch the pupil. There is no damage to sphincter pupillae. This is a bit of moxifloxacin. And now the side ports are closed, hydrating corneal stroma on either side of the side ports. This is the final lavage of the anterior chamber. The anterior chamber is formed very nicely. Intraocular pressure is kept on the higher side and the case is concluded. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video will help you in developing your surgical skills. Be a great surgeon and serve your patients with love, respect, compassion and great surgical competence.